Hey everybody, thank you guys so much for being here. My name is Felicia. This is the School of Sweet Georgia live office hours. Um, Thank you guys so much for being here. I can see you guys in the chat here talking about it's snowing in Ottawa, slightly warmer in Frankfurt. Hi Nina. Pennsylvania's warm and muddy. Cloudy but snow here in DC. Yes, Pearl is watching the new Daedalus Hermes circular hat machine video on YouTube while watching No Snow. Very excited about that. Lots to come today. Thank you guys so much for being here. Let me turn all of this off and then we can chat some more. So welcome. This is our live office hours that we do for the School of Sweet Georgia. Once a month, every month. It happens on the last Thursday of every month at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. And we run for probably about an hour, sometimes a little bit shorter, sometimes a little bit longer. But basically this time we sort of come together every month and we just talk about what has been going on inside the School of Sweet Georgia and what have we been doing behind the scenes, what kind of classes are we working on and preparing, and what kind of content is coming out soon. So all the sort of what's going on behind the scenes basically with the school. So thank you guys so much for being here and to catch up on all the things. We have Greta here in the chat room. She is from the school and she coordinates all of the instructors and all the course content and everything that comes out. And Greta is also an excellent spinner, and she loves fiber preparation. And so we're going to talk about more of all of that later on today as well. So we actually have lots and lots of things to share. And so what I have here is, do I have my correct slides? Let's see. Yes. Aha. There we go. So these are some of the things that we generally talk about from month to month. And so we first start, we talk about sort of what's top of mind. We'll talk about what are the latest updates and things that are happening inside the school. We'll talk about upcoming events, and there are many, many of those. And community things, Q&A, which is an opportunity to ask any questions that you might have, and then we can hopefully help answer some questions on this call, and to share some of the many, many awesome things that you have been working on and the things that you have shared that you've created with the things that you've been learning. So that's the meat of the meeting, is usually sharing a lot of the work that you have created and just celebrating all of that. So really, really excited to do all of that today. So let's first go to what is top of mind. And so first, we should probably talk about something that we kind of came out with in the last month and a bit. Since the beginning of, well, actually for a long time now, we've been talking about this for years. Actually, we've been talking about this for years, about the fact that we have like 115 classes now in the school. We cover everything from knitting, crochet, spinning. We cover fiber preparation. We cover dyeing the fiber. We cover dyeing it with acid dyes, fiber reactive dyes, natural dyes. There's also tapestry weaving, there's rigid heddle weaving, there's multi-shaft weaving, there's punch needle, there's felting, there's so many things inside the school. And I understand that it can be kind of tricky to try to absorb all of that all at one time. And so what we've seen is that with many of the members inside the school, you might come and join specifically to learn about spinning, and you just spend like a good amount of time just focused on working through all of the spinning courses. Or you might have come because you're interested in weaving, so you want to learn all the stuff about weaving from the very beginning with the rigid heddle loom and the multi-shaft loom and all of these kind of things, different weave structures, and just exploring that one particular craft sort of, we don't want to call it a silo. We shouldn't say that word, but it's a craft sort of focus. And oops. And one of the things is that we have all these courses. We do encourage you guys to look at all the different options, all the different things that you could be learning. However, I understand that there's only so much time available. And so what we have been doing is we have made these little kind of like mini memberships. So we made one specifically for spinning, one specifically for weaving, and one specifically for knitting and crochet. And so if you wanted to just focus for a full year on spinning, then you could just access just the spinning membership. And that would be like for a reduced amount, and you would get the spinning courses. And I believe that there are about 24, 25 spinning specific courses. And then for weaving, the same idea, about 25 weaving classes. And then for knitting crochet, there are more classes, and then we have more classes coming as well for knitting and crochet. And that includes, we were talking about for the past couple of weeks, we've been talking about, we're going to be adding machine knitting to our knitting section. And so machine knitting will be included in that knitting and crochet membership. And so it's going to include this 5 classes that we filmed with Barb Barone, and those are all about using the Silver Reed LK 150 flatbed knitting machine. And that is basically, it's a plastic machine, it's a flatbed machine, but it is a knitting machine that has 150 needles, and you can make a ton of things on it. I'm going to show you the thing that I made recently on it. And we're just sort of starting from the very beginning with that machine, and then showing people how to use that, and getting people into that sort of knitting machine world. And like Pearl was just mentioning about that Daedalus hat machine that's come out. So Daedalus, that is a manufacturer that was designing lots and lots of things for the fiber arts. And so we have talked about their e-spinner for a while through the e-spinner class with Debbie Held. They were making these beautiful e-spinners. I've been spinning on the one that I have at my house like every night. It is so fantastic. So anyways, spinning on the Daedalus, but Daedalus has also kind of started to expand out into other products that they're designing, including circular knitting machines. And so the first thing has been this Hermes spinning circular hat machine. So this one has anywhere from 80 to 120, 140 needles all the way around to make a hat. So if you're going to crank a circle, make a hat with that particular machine. And they are also working on a circular sock machine, something a little bit smaller, but they're designing the ribber that's going with that whole thing. Anyways, so all of that is coming together as well. And so we are going to explore more about both flatbed knitting, flatbed machine knitting, and circular machine knitting. And we're going to put all of that into that knitting and crochet membership as well. And of course, if you want all the things, then we've always had that all access membership, and that has been available forever. So in any case, that's one of the first things that we wanted to share with you guys, is that this is basically new for this year. And then the other thing that has been new for this year is that we started to offer multiple currency options. So we now also offer Canadian dollars in addition to US dollars. And we're looking at how that kind of works out, being able to juggle some of these 2 different currencies with our accountant. Our accountant, I don't think they know that we're doing this yet. But when our accountant finds out and then is okay with this, then we can start to add maybe some additional currencies after that as well. So that is kind of what we have been working on behind the scenes, and we have lots more planned for this year. So this is basically just first quarter of 2025. This is the kind of thing that we've been focusing on. And then we have definitely more in store for the rest of the year. So that is basically it. If you have any questions about this, about your membership, about switching memberships, about any of these kinds of things, please do feel free to email me, message me. We've been kind of like sorting out, well, actually, Bridget has sent out a good number of emails, I believe, to sort of connect with everybody. But if you feel like whatever is presented in an email doesn't really necessarily apply to you, or you have a different situation or whatever it is, please just feel free to message me, and then we will get you sorted out. We were just working with each individual member to get all of this working. So that is basically it. Now I wanted to go to this, which is the monthly review of what has been going on and what's been good. So last month in January, we always talk about sort of planning the year, what you have in mind, and what you want to work on for the rest of the year. And what is helpful is if you go back to your learning plan every month and you kind of check in with yourself, what has been good, what's actually been working, what's not been working. And so the thing that has been good for me this past month, it's since January, February was all about fiber preparation and spinning rolags and things like that. And so I think what has been good is that personally, I've spun a bunch of yarn. I've spun a lot. Actually, I'm surprised with myself. I'm surprised with myself about, how much spinning I've been doing. And I kind of think it is because of the e-spinners. I've been using both the Ashford e-spinner that I've had for a while, and then this sort of new to me Daedalus e-spinner. It's a Starling. It's kind of like the smaller version. It's basically the equivalent size of the Ashford e-spinner. So I have these two e-spinners, and I have been spinning on those two very very consistently. And I think part of it is because they are e-spinners and you turn them on and then they are spinning, they go. And because they just go, then you just keep spinning and you don't stop. Whereas for some reason, I find like I have my Saxony treadle wheel back here, and I love the treadle wheel. I love it. It's beautiful. It is like that fairy tale classic spinning wheel. I love it. But for some reason, I feel like I stop more when I spin with that. And so all of that stopping adds up, and then you spin less than you think. So I think the e-spinners, if you have not yet had your chance to try one, I encourage you to give it a try. E-spinners, the Daedalus e-spinner is great. I also have the Dreaming Robots e-spinners. I believe I lent that one to Charlotte and she was playing with it. But all of these e-spinners are fantastic and they just help you spin more. So I have done a bunch of hand spun yarn. I have been knitting a hat with my hand spun. And so I'm talking about this supposedly in tomorrow's video, but you can see this little stripy hat that I made from 2 cones of hand spun that I previously made before. And so this one is knit entirely on the flatbed knitting machine. This is actually, you may not recognize this. This is the WPI hat. This is the hat pattern that was designed by Rachel Smith, and we did a whole class on this about how to knit this hat. But her pattern was designed to be hand knit. And so basically I took her instructions and I sort of converted them to machine instructions. And so that's why you can see I've knit this hat flat back and forth, and then I have to sew up the ends, and then it will make a hat. So excited to do that. So that has been something that I've been working on. So just looking at the chat here, Nina saying, I hope the whole thing membership will stay forever. And Tanya's asking about that too. And absolutely, our all access membership for the school will be there forever. So if you want to have all the things, I do highly encourage you to do that, because that is the way that you can get all of the color classes, all the design classes, all of those kinds of classes are going to be in that all access membership. So if you ever wanted to do weaving, but you also wanted to learn about color and color theory and design and those kinds of things, then you'd want to have that all access membership. So that is that. Linda Bikes and Knits says, I do spin more with the e-spinner. Easy to spin and stand. I said too much already. Yes. I did find that, like with the e-spinner, the thing that's really neat about that is I can position it any way I want. And the way that I have it set up, I sort of loop one of the singles around the other arm of the flyer. And so basically do like a cross lacing thing. So that way it kind of softens the tension of the yarn going onto the bobbin, but it also winds really smoothly. And so I'll post photos later on in the forums, but it just winds really smoothly. It makes a really beautiful looking bobbin. I really, really enjoy it. And I can also position the e-spinner so that I can see the full width of the bobbin, rather than being sort of head on and only seeing like a little bit of what I'm doing. So I get a really, really good view. I can position it anywhere. I can be sitting on the couch. I could theoretically be lying down and spinning. Yeah, it's actually really, really great. So that is what I have been working on. Now, what else? What else has been good? I've been grafting a lot of socks. I haven't been cranking a ton of socks because I have so many socks that need to be grafted. So it's kind of on pause right now. And then the other thing that has been sort of challenging is just I've been on the road a lot. I spend a lot of time in the car and I spend a lot of the time like not in this room or not at my tools. And the thing about machine knitting or wheel or loom is that you have to physically be at your piece of equipment in order for things to get made. And so that is a bit of a tricky thing. So I'm trying to think of things that could make my own making more portable. What can I do? So a lot of the things that I'm doing while I'm on the road is more like project planning rather than actually physically making, but I have to schedule more that time for actually physically making. So just looking at my sort of rough monthly review, I am, curious about what you guys have been working on, if you sort of check in with your own learning plans or your own Make 9 plans every month and think about like what's been going well, what's not been going well, what do I need help with, what's been hard, all of this kind of stuff. So that way you can get to sort of like that next month and see more progress towards your own project plan. So this was my Make 9 that I presented last month. And these are kind of some of the things that I've been working on. So I have been doing the making and spinning from the Rolex. I've done that. I've learned a lot actually from watching Barb teach the machine knitting classes for the LK150 and learned a whole bunch of new things. Just very simple things, but really, really great things that gave me a lot more confidence to even make something like this hat and doing like a really nice cast on with all of that kind of stuff. So I feel like I'm definitely getting better with this, and it's a bit of a learning curve and you do need to practice. So I'm working on all of that. I've been playing around a little bit with that manual color work idea on the flatbed knitting machine. It's also a very, very interesting idea. And we're going to be doing a little bit more of this weaving plaids and tartan style fabrics and things like that, designing a little bit more with that. I've wound another warp with the Gist array, and so we'll talk about that as well, and going to be doing a little bit more waffle weave stuff coming up soon. So this is kind of like what I've been working on. Again, curious about what you guys have been working on and how your plan is going. Now, for what has been going on inside the school and in and around Sweet Georgia, we talked about how February was all about fiber prep. Here is a wonderful little photo of our team at Sweet Georgia. This is the lunch table and also the rolag making table right now. So Greta organized all of this for everybody to have all the fiber, to have all the blending boards to play with, and the team got together at the studio to make these rolags one morning. And it's awesome and interesting because like these are the colorways that we were incorporating into it. So a lot of these are the color collaborations that we did with the spinning instructors inside the SOS. So, you know, Kim McKenna is there, Rachel's is there, Debbie Held is there, Katrina's is there, Diana Twist is there. All of their fiber colors are there, and everybody used some of these colors and mixed them up in all different ways. And so everybody's Rolex look completely different, even though they started from the same materials. And so there is a blog post on the website where you can go and find photos of all of these different Rolex. Let's see if I can see. Yes. I can see it there for you. So there's the blog post here with all of the color and fiber. So there's the photo of all of them and all of the fiber that they used. And then you can see all of the individual Rolex that they've made. And they're just so neat because they're all totally, totally different. So I love that. So that is what has been going on. We have been talking a lot about fiber prep in the fiber prep meetings with Greta. And so you can check those out. We've been recording all of those. The other thing that was happening is I wanted to let you know again that we are editing all of the classes that we did with Barb for that flatbed knitting machine. So you can see here, that is what the flatbed knitting machine looks like over here. That is the LK150 that she's working on. And then this is basically just a really quick capture of how close we're getting into her work so that we can see exactly what she's doing. I believe she's doing a cast on there and just, you know, getting really, really close. So hopefully you can be basically looking over her shoulder as she's working and hopefully learning like that. So that has been going on. Barb has owned a yarn shop in Alberta with her sister Cynthia, and she started also like an online teaching sort of school called Yarniversity over the past couple of years. And so she's been teaching a lot through that. And so we were very, very lucky that she connected with us about being able to record her classes to teach them on the School of Sweet Georgia. So we're very, very excited about that. So she's teaching a basics class and then teaching a sort of with a bias shawl. She's using those techniques to make a bias shawl. And then there's a troubleshooting class. Then there's a class where she makes a hat. She demonstrates how to knit a hat, and then also how to knit socks on a flatbed knitting machine, and then also how to knit lace. So we have lots and lots of stuff coming out about all of that soon as well. Now, one of the latest classes that has come out, like I mentioned, is that stripes and plaids and tartans class. And so there is a pattern in there that we're calling Pacific Plaid Scarf. And it's just basically my notes on weaving this particular scarf. The warp that I wound was enough to make basically 2 scarves. So you can make them however you want. You can use whichever colors you want. Now, one of the things that people have been asking about is the yarn in here. So you can see the yarn is actually really, really lovely. I love this yarn. I want to use it for many, many more things. And we are actually bringing in many, many more colors of this yarn very soon. But this is the yarn that I used for that sampler. It's called, it's merino lamb's wool. It's from a mill called Knoll in the UK, and it is a 217 weight yarn. It's 100% wool. Now, if you don't want to use this yarn, or you don't want to, if you can't get your hands on anything like this, if you had something like Jagerspun Zephyr, Zephyr is like a 218 wool silk yarn. It is gorgeous, beautiful yarn. Could absolutely be used for this as well if you have Zephyr. Zephyr is like no longer being spun or made anymore, although I think that there is a new mill that is up and running, or is starting up, that has bought all of the equipment from the Jagerspun sort of mill, and I don't know if they will be able to spin Zephyr in the future, but in any case, Zephyr was a beautiful yarn, and if you can get it, it would work also for this class really, really well. We have a couple of other options that you could also try here, and that is you can use cotton if you want. You could use cotton and make them into kitchen towels. We have Just Beam, which Just Beam, we've been talking about Just Beam for a while now, but Just used to be only 3-2 cotton. It was a thicker cotton. We used it for a lot of sort of like getting started projects. We used it for a lot of, kitchen kind of textiles and things like that. But Just has also come out with the 8-2 version of their cotton. It's organic cotton, and it's being put up on these bigger cones now. So that is available for you to try. They have lots of new colors and all sorts of things like that. And then we have for a while had the Vene cotton. So the Vene A2 is also organic cotton. So it comes in lots of gorgeous colors. That's also something that you could use for that plaids class if you like. Now, I did notice when the yarn came in that the 8-2 cotton from Gist is a little bit looser spun than the one for the Vene cotton. This one is actually very tight. We also have, the Maurice Broussard 8-2 cotton. You could use that as well. So there's a lot of different options for that 8-2 cotton, and not all 8-2 cotton is spun the same. It's not all equivalent. So if I were you, if I was using this 8-2 cotton for a project that I would be using, I would sort of keep them within the same manufacturer. So if I was going to use Vene for the project, then I would stick with just the one manufacturer. If I was going to use Gist, then I would just stick with just yarn. So that's kind of the thing that I would suggest. Leanne is wondering about the loom. I would love to make a tartan for my daughter. Yes, 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 yes. So cool. If you have a tartan in your family, that would be so wonderful to be able to make that. And then in terms of, weaving this in that 2-2 twill, if you don't want to weave it in 2-2 twill, you can also weave it in plain weave. That's totally doable. You can also look at sizing things up or sizing things down. There was a part in that class where we talked about how, I think it was Mary Atwater, she was talking about how you can scale up or scale down the design of any of these tartans, and then, use different sets, use a thicker yarn, make it into a car blanket, as opposed to, like a garment fabric or something like that. So lots of different options. Now, in the middle here is another option that I have wound my next warp in, and that's the Gist Array. And so Gist Array is a wool yarn that was meant to be used as tapestry yarn. And so we have talked about it before in the tapestry class, because you basically take this wool yarn, it's very firmly spun, it's almost like glossy and shiny as a wool, and then you can use multiple strands of that together to do your tapestry weaving. But if you want to weave it singly, you also can do that. And so I wanted to share with you guys this one. This is an article that was written by Laura Fry, where she took the just array and she wove it in a bunch of samples. So there you can see it. You know, she's done a little bit of a gradient here. And she wove it in a bunch of samples to show how it performed. So this is the yarn in plain weave. This is the unfinished, not wet finished, and this is after wet finishing. And so it did kind of like track a little bit. And then she has, oh, so here it is in plain weave. And I believe she has some samples in twill. And so it looked beautiful in twill. It worked really, really well in twill. So if you wanted to weave array at 24 ends per inch in a twill, in a 2-2 twill for that tartan class, I think that this is basically what it would look like. It should turn out actually pretty nice. So that is a little bit of that. So yes. And then I'm just seeing Tanny is saying, I worked through your tartan class and bought the book by Linda Tilson Davis. Fantastic. Yes, there's lots and lots and lots to study. And I'm glad that that book came out, because that is actually like one of the newest resources on weaving tartans. There was not a ton of information that I could find, because a lot of it was trying to like reference historical and kind of trying to rebuild the history of where all of these designs came from. But that book, that Linda Tilson Davis book, is very, very practical about if you're going to weave it now, today. So that was a little bit about the weaving class that just came out. Now let's talk about the weaving class that's about to come out. So this one is going to be coming out in early March, and this is the 2-heddle weaving class with Amanda Wood. And so in this class, she's teaching you how to weave a twill on a rigid heddle loom. For the most part, you know, we've always talked about, you know, rigid heddle loom. The very first thing you do is you can learn how to weave plain weave. If you want, you can double up the threads and then you can weave what's equivalent to kind of a basket weave. We also talked about weaving lace on it. We've talked about using 2 heddles and some pickup sticks and all of the manipulations that you can do there. And Amanda has also taught how to basically weave double weave, which is basically weaving 2 layers of cloth at the same time on a rigid heddle loom. And so we talked a while about how do we weave twills on a rigid heddle loom, and there are definitely some techniques out there that require a bunch of sort of, you know, different heddles, different sticks. So, we've seen one document that has 3 different heddles, but I don't even think the loom can handle 3 heddles. In any case, she thought that the best thing to sort of settle on would be to make this sort of, it's a 2-1 twill. And so you can see that the way that this looks is that there's a different color dominance on one side versus the other side. One side is a little bit more weft dominant and the other side is a little bit more warp dominant. So you can see that here. You can see on the back side of this cloth, it's a little bit, it's got more light and white to it because this is the warp color. And then on this side, you see a lot more of this sort of darker brown green color because that's the weft color that's coming over. So this is the project that she is sort of presenting for the class, and this is going to come out in probably a couple weeks, very, very soon. And yeah, this will be something that will be really, really interesting to play with, because you could do the twill technique that Amanda is showing with the rigid heddle loom, but you can combine it with something like the weaving plaids and tartans class, because that class, the previous class, is about like how do you design stripes in your warp, how do you put those stripes in your weft, and what will the cloth look like when you sort of overlay these 2 things. And now if you kind of layer on that additional feature of, you know, one side could be more warp faced, one side could be more weft faced, you're going to get a lot more options for like optical color mixing and blending and all sorts of cool things that could happen, because, you know, your stripe design could look one way on one side and then look different on the other side of the cloth. So that could make for actually really, really interesting design if you're mixing and blending a lot of different colors. So that is one that we have. I have another photo of the scarf coming up later because she's made a couple options so you can see what they look like. But very, very excited for this class to come out because it is really about like helping you use your rigid heddle loom and just maximize all of the things that you can do with it without making it so complex that you have to have all these things to juggle. So yes, it's quite lovely. And Amanda makes beautiful, beautiful designs. The next one that I wanted to sort of highlight and sort of let you know that is coming. This is a sneak peek sort of thing. But we have a class coming out with Caitlin Shepard on top-down stranded colorwork. And so this is the little project, not little, but this is the project that is going to be explored in that particular class. And so that is coming out later on this year. So we do have more knitting classes coming out. And I have a little sneak peek of a behind the scenes thing that we just filmed with Katrina Stewart. So Katrina has taught many of our spinning classes, but she also is a dyer, if you did not already know. Katrina has a business called Crafty Jacks, and she dyes yarn, she dyes spinning fibers, she dyes all sorts of things, and she does ice dyeing. And so 2 summers ago, we held a fiber arts summer camp for kids at our old studio. And so my daughter Nina was part of that class, and they got to do ice dyeing with Katrina. Katrina taught that entire week-long fiber arts camp for kids. And ice dyeing was one of the topics that we covered. And so Nina came home with this sort of cotton bag that had been ice dyed. And so basically they'd like scrunched it up and put it in a tray and then put all this ice with it. And then Katrina helped them put dye on top of it and all of this kind of stuff. And when the ice melts, it will help lay the color on top of the fabric. And it's really, really, really fun. It looks amazing. And plus the photos look amazing. The whole process looks really amazing. So really, really excited for this to come out a little bit later on this year. So I think these were snapshots from my phone of the day when Katrina came to do it. You can kind of see it down here. You can kind of see the fabric that's scrunched up underneath all of the ice here. You can barely see it on this side, but under here you can see it. So that should be fun because ice dyeing is something that you can do outside. It's something you can do in the summertime. You don't need any heat for this to happen. And so it can be a really low maintenance way of doing some dyeing. You don't need a big studio. You don't need anything. So it's actually quite accessible for people. So yeah, that is one of the ways that we're trying to extend out the fiber reactive dyeing side of our knowledge base. So excited for all those things to be coming. Now, I wanted to share about some upcoming events, and this year is going to be kind of a big year. We have first, to let you know, we have first coming up H&H Americas. So basically, I and some of our team will be at H&H Americas, which is a industry trade show. It's like a fiber arts, knitting, yarn. It's mostly yarn, fabric. There's quilting. There's all that sewing. There's sewing machines. Like it's a big industry craft trade show. And it happens near Chicago, not entirely in Chicago. It's about half an hour outside of Chicago. And it happens, oh, I didn't put the date on there. It's beginning of May. So it runs from about May 6th to May 9, 10, something like that. And if you wanted to attend, because I do know that we have had SOS members come to H&H before in the past. If you would like to come, you are more than welcome to sign up with our link down there. It says sweetgeorgiayarns.com/HH25. That will get you a link, and then you'll be able to register for a ticket. The tickets are free to enter the trade show. But you do, because it is an industry trade show, you do need to be one of the categories of attendees. So you need to be either a retailer, like with a yarn shop, either online or brick and mortar, or you can be a representative of an association or your guild. You can be a content creator, like you're a blogger or you're a podcaster or YouTuber. You can be a teacher or educator, designer, professional maker, press, consultant, manufacturer's rep, or student. So any of those categories will allow you to sign up to attend this industry trade show. And it's actually really, really interesting. I mean, you go in and obviously there's a huge market with all of the different vendors, people selling yarn, people selling sewing machines, people selling knitting needles, like Chiagu is there. Um, and Chaogu. And there's all of that, but then there's also a lot of sessions where you can like meet people and take classes and learn a lot of things. So it's actually great and super educational. I do like going to this show, and it's just a great way to see people in real life. And so we've put that on the calendar of events for the school as well, in case you want to go check that out. The other thing that is coming up this year, 2025, Knit City is coming back to Vancouver. So Knit City is our local fiber festival, and the organizers, Amanda and Fiona, they started to like branch out. They originally started in Vancouver, then they started to branch out. And so they have a Montreal show, they have a Toronto show, and they also have a Calgary show. And so last year they had the Calgary show and instead of the Vancouver show. So Vancouver has not had a show since 2023. So I think people in Vancouver are going to be very, very excited about this coming back. And so we always host like a monster booth that is like so 4 times 10, so 40 by 10 booth. So we bring a lot of yarn. And then we also host the lounge that happens very close to our booth. But the lounge is meant to be sort of a way to explore and share with people all of the different aspects of the fiber arts, which is exactly what we do in the school, right? We're trying to show people everything from fiber to fiber prep to spinning to knitting to crocheting with it to weaving with it. What can you do? So we bring looms for demonstrations, we bring fiber prep tools for demos, we do crochet demos, all of these kinds of things. And so this year, what I'm hoping to incorporate is I want to do more of a spin in, because we typically do some sort of a spin in, knit in kind of thing. But I also want to do a crank in. So I don't entirely know how to organize a crank in yet, but that is one of the things that I would like to do. I have been thinking about this for a couple of years now, about trying to find a space where we could host some sort of a crank in, and people who have circular sock knitting machines or circular machines, if you want to bring them and then all hang out in one space together and do this together. This is kind of something that's been on my mind, so I've been thinking about that. And of course we're going to have knitting machines as demos as well and all that kind of stuff. And we will also do an SOS meetup. So anybody who's in the school, if you guys want to come and have an actual meetup where you meet each other face to face, I think that could also be very, very exciting. And then finally, September 2025 is our 20th anniversary of SweetGeorgia Yarns. And so we are going to host a special event for that as well. So that's all going to happen in and around September 26th to 28th in Vancouver. So if you are thinking about making any travel plans or anything like that, yeah, I would love to meet you in real life. Besides the internet world, come and see us in Vancouver in real life. And yes, Louise, you're attending Knit City in Montreal. Yeah, apparently that is an amazing show as well. So I hope that you enjoy that. Yeah, they do such a wonderful job of organizing these events. So very, very excited. If you want to come to Vancouver, come say hi. Come see us. Now, let's have a quick look at the calendar. So this is the March calendar that is coming up. And there are some new things on here. So there's some new things that I want to share with you. So first is all of that green, all the little green spots. The green spots are basically the study groups. They're kind of like the topic focused groups. And so we have had the weaving meetup and the fiber prep meetup for a while now, but we have just change them so that they look green, so that they show up on the calendar a little bit more clearly. But this is the weaving meetup. This is the fiber prep meetup. So we're focusing on those two topics. And then on Wednesdays, we have the inkle weaving meetup and the tapestry weaving meetup. And these two that happen on Wednesdays are community led. Okay, so that is people in the school, members of the school who have been super, super excited by the idea of inkle weaving or super excited about tapestry weaving, who wanted to continue on with these sort of explorations and studies. These are the moments where you can come together and focus on all of that. Now, the weaving meetup is one that I host, and the fiber prep meeting is one that Greta hosts. And so those are sort of the 4 topic focused groups that we have currently. if you want to propose another one, I totally encourage you to message us. Let us know. Just raise your hand and say, oh, I would love for us to have one on blah, blah, blah topic. Then would love to chat with you about that. The other thing that we have always had is that Mondays we have crafternoons with Robin. And so Robin, she's one of our moderators inside the School of Sweet Georgia, and she will meet with everybody on Mondays to chat about, you know, everything that you're working on. It's a very, very casual meetup. Bring whatever you're working on. If you want to knit, crochet, spin, whatever you want to do, you can bring that. And then Monday evenings, once a month, we do a multi-craftual meetup. And this one is not just open to school members, but it's open to like everybody. It's open to the public, everyone. Anybody who wants to come can come to that. We also have added, this is a brand new thing, thanks to Pearl in the chat, who has proposed and is setting this up, but there's a crafternoon, casual crafternoon meetup that's going to happen every single Sunday now. So every single Sunday is going to be hosted by a community. So if you want to join us on the weekend, that is a place to go. And then finally, we have here in purple, these are the quiet co-working sessions. So on Fridays, there's an hour where you can come join the group on Zoom, and everybody sort of turns their microphones off, so everybody's muted, and then everybody's working quietly at the same time. You can see each other all on Zoom, but you're just working on the project that you're working on. And just the mere fact that people are around you and working on stuff helps you actually be more productive and get things done. So I know for myself, I do need to get myself to one of these co-working sessions because I do need to get some things done. So if you need to like work on a project, and this is a dedicated time to actually getting stuff done. So that is the first thing that I wanted to share about that. Let me flip to this. Okay, so there's February, there's March. One thing I did want to mention about March is that usually on the last Thursday of every month, we have the live office hours. But I'm actually going to be completely out of town from basically the 18th of March until April 6th. And so I will not be available to do this live office hour. So we're just going to have to miss that one. I'm actually heading to Tokyo and Taipei to visit my family, and it's like a massive reunion with like my two brothers and all of their kids, and my parents are going, and then we're all going to go see my aunts and my uncles that live in Taipei, and then visit all of the cousins that live there, and then we're taking this massive charter bus trip. It's like a huge big thing. So yeah, that's where I'm going to be. So I won't be available to do the live office hours during that month, but we will catch up during April. And so this is kind of like what April looks like so far. You can, again, you can see all the meetings on here. There's the inkle weaving, all the Sunday meetings, everything's here. And then in May is when we are at H&H Americas. And so we have added this new calendar for all of the events that are sort of in person. We're starting to add these onto the calendar as well. So I think what we might do is we might also add the events that we have at the studio. So the second Saturday of every month, we open the Sweet Georgia studio in Vancouver, and there's a knit in there. There's just like a meetup that happens on the second Saturday of every month. And so we'll pop those in here as well. If you are ever in Vancouver and wanting to come out and hang out with the knitters, Charlotte hosts that one, and it's really, really lovely, and everybody has a wonderful time. So, or I hope so. So that is that for the calendar. And trying to get my cursor here. Okay. And yeah. So just a recap of that weaving meeting, I wanted to show you the other scarf that Amanda wove. And so you can see here, these are the two different color samples that she made. This one has the gold color in here, and this one has the original sort of green and brown kind of color. So those are the two samples that were woven for that meeting. And so when we do the weavers meeting in March 10th, it is going to be following the release of that Two Heddle Twills class. And so we can talk about that as well if anybody has questions or wants to talk more about that. And then fiber prep meeting, of course, more fiber prep with Greta. And I have a photo of something that she's worked on. we'll share that soon. So all of these fiber prep meetings and the weavers meeting, they are being done. If you haven't joined for a while, we have switched them from Zoom to Google Meet. And the reason is because in the Google Meet, we are able to get like an entire transcription of the meeting and sort of a summary of the meeting. And it's basically helped with sort of collecting all of the information out of those meetings. And then we can post the recording and post the transcript and post all the notes from it. And so hopefully that makes it much easier for everybody to access a lot of that content. So that's why we're doing that in Google Meet. But the multi-craft tool meetup is still in Zoom. The Crafternoon is still in Zoom. Sorry to make them all confusing. So quick look at the community. Just a reminder that this is where sort of you find the community. We always talk about how the school is kind of like these two halves. One half is all the content that you find in the school, and then the second half is all of the discussions that you can be having. So inside here, there's all of the topics. You can post topics in any of these areas, and it makes things a lot more organized in order to find information, ask questions. You can ask questions specifically about fiber reactive dyeing, specifically about lace knitting, whatever it is you want in here. And then it gives you the opportunity to also add photos if you want to. There's people who are making entire galleries of photos right now, and so that is fantastic. And you can see all the events that we have coming up as well. So that is all available for you there. And then the other thing that I wanted to share with you is the Discord, in case you have not discovered that. There's the Discord server that we created for Sweet Georgia is like a very, very kind of chatty version of discussion forum. And so again, we're talking about similar topics. We're talking about knitting and spinning and using our hand spun and weaving, all those kinds of things. But it's just the flow of that conversation is very, very different from the community forums in the school. And so it all is kind of like whatever you happen to prefer. The Discord is definitely more chatty and more like timely. So those are two different options that you have for connecting with other people in the school. Yes. So, Nicole, if you have any suggestions for another time for meetups or things like that, please just let us know, because we don't really know entirely when to plan things, because we're not entirely sure when people are available. So we had set out previously like a poll to ask people when they would like to meet. But yeah, if you just message us directly and say, oh, this is the best time for us, then we can see what we can do. Absolutely. So now let's talk about all of the things that everybody has been working on inside the school. And the first thing is wanted to celebrate Brenda's finished kaleidoscope scarf. Now, this is beautiful. I know that she said early on she had like a little bit of a hiccup when she got started, and she had like too many warp threads in the light color, and so she had to unweave it, she had to remove things, she had to rethread it, all of this kind of stuff. But she is very, very happy with how it turned out. I love how like when you step back and you look at this, you can see the colors like fading in and out, like very gradual. And so like just from far away, you can see those colors with that gradient effect. And it turned out really, really lovely. So congratulations on finishing your scarf. My scarf is still on the loom. I'm still thinking about, I'm almost done. I have like maybe 2 inches left, but I'm thinking about maybe just keeping it on there as like a sample. Maybe you'll see it at Knit City. It might stay there until Knit City, actually. But yeah, it's almost done. But yours is beautiful, and I'm so glad that you persevered and you finished it. So fantastic. And we have here, this is Valerie. So Valerie oh, thanks. Brenda's wore hers today. Fantastic. So Valerie has been posting in the forums that she has started a weaving journey with a Leclerc Mira loom, which is the same loom that I have at the studio as well. It's a counterbalance loom. It's a 4-shaft. They can be anywhere from like 27 inches to 45 inches, or even bigger, I think, maybe 60. But yeah, it's a counterbalance loom. beautiful loom, solid loom. And so Valerie has just started to weave. And so these projects are the exact projects that have come out of the multi-shaft weaving basics course. So this first one is the sampler project, and this basically mimics the sampler that I learned to weave when I first started weaving. And so you set up your loom with a, straight draw, and then you weave some plain weave, you weave some basket weave, you learn to beat really, really hard, and then you beat really, really loose, and then you do some twill, and then you do some broken twill, and just a whole bunch of different ways of experimenting with that 4-shaft loom to see what can it do, all the different things that can come out of one threading. So I'm hoping that that was a really, really good start to your weaving journey. But this is the shawl project that comes out of it. It's called the Hearthstone Shawl, and it's a broken twill, and it uses 3 different colors. And the idea is that they all mix and blend together and make this new beautiful color at the same time as you're learning about how to weave a broken twill and work with wool and work with this multi-shaft loom. But yours looks beautiful, Valerie. I mean, like the weaving, the color is really consistent throughout this fabric. So that's great, because it should mean that like the beat has been really consistent, like not too many sections where things have been packed together really tightly or where they're really loose, because those things will show color discrepancies. But yours looks very, very consistent and even, and it just looks really, really lovely. So I hope that you have been enjoying that. If you want to check out that class, Greta's just posted the link to that there, and the link to it is right here as well. So that is the first one. The next one I wanted to share was Nancy. Nancy's in the chat as well here today. These are Nancy's Rolex that she's prepared. I love this photo because this is basically set up as a fractal. So her point here is that you can see this is all going to be spun continuously to one bobbin, right? So you have your colors fading from brown, light brown, yellow, light gray, dark gray. So you'd spin all of these in a row in order to make one bobbin. And then for the second one, you're cycling through the same colors, but your cycles are going to be shorter. So you're going to cycle through one time, another time, another time, another time. And then you take these 2 bobbins and then you ply them together to make your fractal spun yarn. And I think it's really great to see it illustrated in this way, because a lot of times people have said, oh yeah, I'm preparing my Rolex in a fractal way. I'm like, oh, okay, that sounds great. But to see it actually laid out, you understand exactly what's going on. So this is fantastic. So the Rolex look beautiful. They look great. And they've been made with 2 different braids. So these should make for a ton of yarn, should make for quite a lot of yarn. And so you can find that actual thread here, but that looks fantastic, Nancy. Thank you so much for showing us what you're working on. We have here, this is woven by Lauren. So this is actually a 2-heddle twill pattern that she wove on her rigid heddle loom. So she said it's a 3-shaft twill pattern. It's a Kelly Casanova pattern. So you can find that at Kelly Casanova's website. I'm sure it's Kelly Casanova Weaving Lessons, I think is her website. And this is, again, yeah, woven on a rigid heddle loom, but it has that same idea where one side is a little bit more warp faced and another side is a little bit more weft faced, vice versa. Yeah, so that is looking great. And so, yeah, looking forward to exploring more about this coming year. These 2 heddle twills and these kind of like different appearances on one side versus the other side. And then she has another photo. If you go to her topic, she has another photo, a second photo of what else she's made with that same technique. So that looks fantastic. So thank you, Lauren. And then we have from Leanne's Rolex. And so this is actually, she said, this is the Trifecta Riverfront colorway. This is the colorway that we dyed for September 2024 Fiber Club. And it had like, yes, it has these golds and reddish, rusty colors going into browns, going into like sort of olivey greens and things like that. And so she's used all of that colorway, which was dyed in Trifecta. Trifecta is this blend of blue-faced luster, wool together with mohair, together with silk. And then she added in a little bit more silk to like lighten and brighten and all that kind of stuff. And so this is her gradient set of Rolex that she's prepared from all of this. This looks really, really lovely. So it's almost like, when we talk about taking your hand-painted fiber and we split it up into different piles of colors, and you can sort of blend them together and all sorts of things like that. She's blended them to create these Rolex that kind of fade from one Rolex to the next. So yeah, Leanne's saying I started spinning these last night and they're so nice to spin. So fantastic. I'm curious about how you're spinning. Are you spinning them sort of long draw? Are you spinning them woolen? How are you spinning those? They are beautiful. And then what will you make from it? Will you 3-ply it? Will you chain ply it? Will you do a 2-ply? Yes. Oh yes, you said you separated them into 5 similar groupings and then spin a 2-ply from them. Aha. Okay, fantastic. So I'm sure we will see what happens with those yarns when they are all done. Now, show you what Greta's been working on. So Greta also has here a 3-ply fingering weight yarn that she spun using supported spindles in the summer. And then she's holding it together with the Silk Mist, which is this fuzzy lace weight mohair yarn here. And then she's knitting a cowl. It's the Rib Welt Cowl by Sweater Freak. And so you can find that pattern on Ravelry. So that is very, very interesting because yes, there you can see there's these garter welts that are happening here, and then you can see the ribs that are happening here. And so this will turn out really lovely. I think it's that nice combination of you're using your hand spun held together with that fuzzy mohair. It just makes everything look so, just has a halo, has a fuzz to it, and just makes everything look so cozy and warm and so lovely. But again, like incorporating all of these techniques of fiber prep, blending and making these Rolex, and then using those Rolex and spinning with a supported spindle, and then knitting with it. I don't know what the fiber, if the fiber was, oh, the fiber is BFL and silk, plus sari silk, and then spindle spun. So yeah, mixing in all the different crafts. Yes, it looks beautiful. Now, Greta talked more about this and she shared more of these photos in the fiber prep meeting that happened this past Monday. So if you are interested in sort of watching the recap of that, we're posting all the recordings on the school so you can find all of that. Looks beautiful. Now, for something totally different, I wanted to share, oh wait, maybe we should do more spinning. We'll do more spinning. Okay, so this is more spinning. This is more spinning from Leanne. Leanne spun these bobbins from Tour de Fleece, and 2 of the braids were dyed by Leanne, and then 1 of the braids was from Malabrigo. And so she kind of had to prepare all the fiber and everything in order so that they could all be spun consistently. I believe they're all merino, I think is what it is. But the colors are all very, very, they go together, but you can see that they're obviously different, right? Very, very different. But she 3-plied it together to make a combo plied yarn. And this is the finished outcome. So this is really beautiful. Like, I think that if you have never tried combo plying or combo drafting, I do encourage you guys to give that a try. I do talk about it in the Spinning Intentional Color class. Katrina also talks about it in one of her spinning classes. It's a really, really interesting technique because you can take, if you need more yarn, you can take, different braids of fiber that you might have in your stash, and you can blend them together and combine them. You don't have to just take like 100-gram braid of fiber and then make 100 grams of yarn, and another one that's another 100 grams of yarn. If you're mixing them and combining them together, you end up with 200 grams, way more yards, and then you can make a bigger project. And so this combo plying technique is really, really great if you're trying to mix and combine a whole bunch of disparate braids together to make something else. So this is her Tour de Fleece spin, again, from this to this. I think it looks great. It's beautiful. Leanne is saying, haven't measured it, but started with about 300 grams. So it's going to be a ton of yarn. Looks fantastic. And now finally, this is our last piece of today I wanted to share with you guys. Love it. This is by Kathleen Stevenson, has been working on some punch needle. And so this is a project that was designed by Robin Whitford, and it's called A Place to Call Home. And it's a kit that comes with the design already drawn on the cloth, and then it comes with all the yarn that you need in order to make the project. But you can see here, there's some interesting things happening, right? There's some thinner yarn, some finer yarn, and look, this little house, and then there's some thicker yarn, more fuzzy yarn. It's sticking out. This yarn for the sky is also a little bit thicker, different texture than the yarn for the ground. It's all very neat, and I think that the differences in the height of all of the punches adds to the texture. The different yarn adds to the texture. It's so cute. I love it. I tell my husband all the time that this is basically like my fantasy life is like having a little cabin in the middle of the woods and just surrounded by snow. I love this. Like, this is my happy place. This is my, like, in my mind, this is what I think my dream is to just like stay in this little cabin in the snowy woods. It looks fantastic. So thank you so much for sharing that with us. There's this thread here for revisiting punch needle, because Kathy's been making a bunch of different punch needle projects. And I always think about it. I always think, oh, be something nice to do. Maybe I should do that, because we were talking about doing things that are a little bit more portable, right? Things that are a little bit easier to get a hold of. And so this being 8 by 8 inches, and then you have your punch tool, and then you have like your yarn, maybe that is something that's a little bit more portable to bring around with you. So I'm curious about, like, how long it took to make this. And because I know you've been making a bunch of these punch needle projects. I wonder how long it takes to make. They're beautiful. Yeah, so check that out if you guys are interested in doing a little bit of punch needle. They are fun. So that is basically it for today. I can't believe that was almost exactly 1 hour. So thank you guys so much for joining us today. I hope that this was helpful. I hope that you kind of like have a sense of what's going on behind the scenes here. We do have a lot more stuff planned for this coming year, and yeah, excited to see also what you are making with all of your projects. And please do continue to share them with us inside the School of Sweet Georgia forums. And if you like that more chatty experience, you can also find us on Discord there. So thank you guys so much for being here and spending the hour with me on chat, and it was lovely to see all of you here, and hope to see you guys in an upcoming meeting soon. We do have that one coming up on next Monday, I think, is the Multicraftual meetup. So we can see you all there or in the upcoming weaving meetup. Thanks. All right. I'll see you guys soon. Bye for now.